and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show. It covers a little bit of everything, from the New York Football Giants to the New York Baseball Mets, movie reviews, TV show recaps and reactions, and a whole bunch of life stories with life lessons that'll make you go, Hosted by a Giant Mess, that's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. I'm an Irish-Italian-American who graduated from a Catholic high school but isn't Catholic. Ew. Then I earned a couple of overpriced degrees from an overpriced university that's known for producing doctors and lacrosse players. And spoiler alert, I didn't become either of those things. Instead, I like to tell stories. Those stories have one purpose: to get you to chuckle and giggle and laugh. And if they don't, my apologies. I will issue you a refund. So that's cool. You can leave a voicemail, 862-248-1986. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling angry, you have a lot of emotions running through that body of yours, through that head of yours, why don't you pick up the phone and dial that number and say whatever you want. No judgments, okay? Just like Crunch, the fitness center that had a fair amount of homosexual activity in the shower area. No judgment. Okay. You can also subscribe to Giant Mess on YouTube, youtube.com/realcinch, Neal Lynch, or Giant Mess. One of those three should work. And go to the blog, neallynch.com. It looks like it's straight out of the 80s, y'all. So that's perfect. And I'm on the socials, dude. Real Cinch on Instagram and Twitter. I don't know what to make of social media anymore. I'm at a loss for words. It's just lowest of the low. But yet I can't quit it. Goddamn Brokeback Mountain. I can't quit you. Facebook.com/Giant Mess. Facebook is a cesspool. Y'all know that. I mean, Twitter's a cesspool. It's all a cesspool. What are we doing? And make sure you subscribe to this here pod on Apple, Spotify, or my new fave, Amazon Music. You can watch the video podcast on Spotify. On this episode of Giant Mess, we're going to talk about the Giants' big-time win over the Houston Texans. A must-win. Every game is a must-win. But this was a trap game, just like the last few games have been trap games. And we escaped with a dub. Wasn't pretty, but that's just who we are. And that's why I love my Giants. Because they're not pretty. They're ugly. They get the job done. We'll also talk about some news and notes from Giants land. Saquon Barkley's contract extension. Xavier McKinney's freak hand injury. And Julian Love's contract extension. The signing Isiah Hodgins from the Bills. We'll also look at the ESPN Football Power Index and 538's projections and predictions. I haven't really dabbled in either of those things, and I thought, we look at playoffstatus.com. It's time to look at ESPN's FBI and 538's ELO rating, whatever the frig that is. And then we'll preview the upcoming game against the Detroit Lions. Is it going to be a shootout? Is it going to be a barn burner? We'll get into that. So with that, let us begin. I wasn't able to preview the Texans game last week. A lot of shit going on, and I wasn't able to get around to it. But the keys coming into the game were pretty simple. Run the ball. Run the damn ball. This Texans squad stinks against the run, so let's take advantage of that. Let's ground, and let's pound, baby. And we did that. We did that big time. Saquon with like 35, 36 carries for 150 some odd yards and touch. And Daniel Jones only throwing the ball 17 times. And that had a lot of people up in arms. But I personally don't mind this. People are comparing this to it was like a Bill Parcellsian win, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Maybe not the flashiest, maybe not the most exciting. But we did get a huge explosive play from Darius Slayton. And DJ had 2 touchdowns throwing the ball. He's efficient. I'm a quality guy, not a quantity guy. You want to watch a team that throws the ball 40 plus times a game and throws for over 300 yards every game and throws maybe 3 touchdowns, but also 2 or 3 interceptions and loses. You can be a Lions fan and you can follow them as they go. What are they? 3-6. So I'll take my 7-2. I'll take efficiency all damn day long. Red zone efficiency. Get into the red zone. And when you get in the red zone, you score. It's that simple. So I'll take that all day, every day. No, we're not the Chiefs. No, we're not the Bills. We're the Giants. And I like that. I like that where we have our own identity. And we have, over the course of the first half of the season, have created a pretty strong brand identity. It's like we're going to run the ball. We're going to play good defense. And like that's been the formula for winning championships mostly of yesteryear. You don't see it a lot now because everyone says it's a passing league. But I mean, if everyone's playing the pass and we can run the damn ball and run it with success, then I'm all for it. Now, there are some concerns. What happens when they continue to stack the box and we are forced to throw the ball, 30 plus times a game? We haven't been in that situation as of yet. I think Dable was asked about that, and he said, what happens if you do have to throw the ball 35 times? And he's just like, I don't know. Because that's not the game plan, Hoss. The game plan is we execute on the run. And, you could see what happened when the run does get shut down, like in Seattle, where Barkley's only running for something like 50 some odd yards, and we are forced to throw the ball. Not exactly what a formula for success for us. So the bye week came and went, and of course we had to have some kind of news story come out during the bye week. Couldn't be quiet. Just couldn't go by quiet. Just passing the night nice and quiet. Nope. Xavier McKinney went to Cabo someplace, went on an ATV, some sightseeing tour, and crashed and fractured his fingers or broke his hand or some bullshit. And now he's out for at least 4 weeks, and probably there's some speculation that he's going to be out for the rest of the season. I know this has been discussed to death, but I'll quickly say this. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? What are you doing? Just relax. Like, I understand accidents can happen anywhere. There have been plenty of stories about like dude falls in the shower, an athlete falling in the shower. It happens. Someone's cutting limes and they slice a finger. Like, it's just accidents happen. I get it. But like, you're increasing your chances of something bad happening when you get on an ATV, especially if you're not a trained rider. They're dangerous. When I was working at Donut Media, we did a whole profile on the world's most dangerous vehicle. It was a Honda Trike, I think, tricycle type, three-wheel motorcycle type thing. And if you don't know how to ride it and you're riding recklessly, it's doomsday. It's for whom the bell tolls, right? You're gonna get injured. So and I think the players and the coaches all came and supported him. They all didn't want to pile on him, but as a fan, it's like, what the fudge, dude? What the fug? We actually have a good team. We're winning. You're playing great Pro Bowl type season for X-Man. And then to go and do that, it's like, well, all right. Yeah. And he was all pissed facing all the questions, but it's like, dude, those are the questions that have to be asked. What the hell were you doing on an ATV? Why were you in a sight surgery? Why? That's what the people want to know, because they're pissed. And like, I'm sure the players and coaches, they put on a good face and they showed support, which is great. And I think that speaks to what kind of guy Xavier is. He's well liked in the clubhouse, and I think that's awesome. Just can't do it, dude. Especially, what a time to be out when we're heading into like the gates of hell. Murderer's Row, all these divisional games, conference games that are so crucial, and we're just not going to have our best safety. Although I think Julian Love would like a word. So I just, shades of JPP, shades of the boat trip. It's just all those swirling around in my head, like all these awful incidents that usually do not spell out a fortuitous conclusion to the season. But we got past it. Dane Belton and Jason Pinnock, they stepped up and they balled out. Belton had the pick. Pinnock had like a 1.5 sacks or something like that. So that was good to see. Julian Love got a contract extension. Talk about a tremendous story for the New York Giants this season. In a season full of stories. Saquon Barkley, comeback player of the year, possibly DJ, his QBR being in the top 5, top 10, and him possibly getting a contract extension. Barkley, the talks with him over the bye week, trying to get the contract done, extension done. Dexter Lawrence emerging as an all-pro. Leonard Williams proving that he's worth, he was worth the trade and the big contract. Julian Love is an incredible story. I like, out of all that, I think, becoming a captain after like just the shit up not seeing the field when healthy. What the fuck? And so maybe he is a system guy, and maybe he, in other systems is not even starter worthy, but in Don Martindale's system, he is a captain and he is leading this team to victory on defense. So he got the green dot, which means he was the signal caller on the defensive side of the ball, calling the shots. and he rotated with Dane Belton in the single high look, but he at least in the first quarter, first half, and then he ended up playing the deep man for the rest of the game. And sure, we gave up a lot of yards, but the difference between our Martindale's defense and Patrick Graham's defense is we give up a lot of yards, but not on our side of the field. I feel like and if we do, it's a matter of tightening up and forcing turnovers, dude. I mean, that's the big difference that I see between Martindale and Graham's defense is like maybe we do give up a big chunk plays here and there, especially in the second half. But when it comes down to it, Leonard Williams with a forced fumble inside the 10 or inside the 20 that took away points, at least 3 points, possibly 7, when huge fumble recovery. And then Dexter Lawrence getting pressure on Mills and forcing him to throw into traffic, and Dane Belton getting the huge pick also with taking away a scoring opportunity. So that's a minimum 6 to 14 points you're looking at, and that's essentially the difference in the game when it comes down to it. So I'm very happy for Julian Love. It's like I would love to see him be a lifelong Giant. I think he's only like 24, dude, which can't. That math does not add up for me. Like he was just like, I guess he was 20 his rookie year. 2019, 21. So yeah, he was like 20. His freshman year, his first year with the club. So, I very happy for him, and sucks for McKinney, but it's like this is kind of we're approaching holiday season where that new movie Spirited is coming out with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, which is like they're rehashing kind of, I guess, Scrooge and the Christmas Carol, whatever, where it's the ghost of Christmas past. The ghost of Christmas future has visited Xavier McKinney, and he has said, hey, this is your life when you are gone. Julian Love is calling signals as the captain. Dane Belton, Justin Pinnock are filling in admirably. And you're not that sorely missed. And so, like, I feel like this is a rallying call for McKinney. He's going to see that the team is performing without him, and he's going to be scratching to get back on that field and to make an impact. And so I think he's going to come back with a vengeance, and he could be the difference maker down the stretch. It just sucks. It might not be in the regular season. Initial estimates were 4 weeks, which means he was gone for Houston, he's gone for Detroit, and he's gone definitely for Dallas. And then possibly, I think that next game is either Washington or Philly. Probably Washington, I think. Because it goes Washington, Philly, Washington. Yeah. So, I mean, to not get him back for the regular season, that's a huge blow. And hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us. But that's not a great omen, not a great sign. Everything was kind of clicking up to that point for me. It was like, all right, everything's kind of falling in line. The chips are lining up, and it looks like this is just kind of our season. And then for that to happen was like a major setback, but the team overcame it. A lot of people want us to blow out the Texans. I get it, dude, but I just I'll take the win. I missed the first half, managed to get to a sports bar to catch the second half of the game, and then I watched the second half of the game, and I'm like, this is great. I mean, I was surprised to see it. I tuned in right after Slayton's long touchdown. I was like 14-3. Okay. We're taking care of business. It's not, we're not up by 3 scores or 4 scores like a lot of people had hoped. But I mean, this Texans team, I said it before, they play teams tough. Same with the Jaguars. I mean, Dameon Pierce is a force. I think, was it Martindale called him the angriest runner in the league? They stuck it to the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles were expecting that much of a fight, and they took them pretty deep. I mean, you look at like what they've done over the course of the season. Tied the Colts in overtime, and I know the Colts aren't that great this year, but tied them in overtime. Lost by a touchdown to the Broncos, which the Broncos have an incredible defense, no offense. So they played, and every Broncos game has been close. They just lose to the Bears by 3. They get kind of blown out by the Chargers. They beat the Jaguars. They get blown out by the Raiders, which is crazy to think about considering where the Raiders are right now. Lose only by 7 to the Titans. The Titans have won like something like 6 in a row or something like that, leading up to the Chiefs game where they lost. And then they battled the Eagles. I mean, that final score doesn't really reflect it, but they battled the Eagles. So tough defense. I mean, you saw their pass rush is pretty good. I mean, we only had 17 dropbacks or 20 dropbacks or something like that, and they had 3 sacks or more. I'm fine with the win. I don't care if we win every game by 1 point. That's all that matters is winning. I mean, Al Davis was kind of on to something. Just win, baby. And if this is how we win, then so be it. We're gonna play it close, and we're not gonna make the mistakes, and you are. And that's that. Other news from the bye week and right after the Texans game, cornerback Aaron Robinson is likely to miss the remainder of the season because of knee injury he suffered last month. That sucks. As much shit as I gave A-Rob, would be a nice depth piece. I don't think he's our starting cornerback. I think Fabian Moreau has really proved himself in the system, but it would be nice, because I think we are still a tad thin. Like if Moreau or Adoree go down, I guess Nick McLeod filled in fairly well. So Nick McLeod has been a really key addition for this ball club, and I'm glad to see him thrive, but it would just be nice to have that depth. And then, for all the talk we had about the linebacking core and how awful they are and how we shouldn't have got rid of Blake Martinez, I guess the writing was on the wall and we didn't see it because he just retired. So he didn't play a ton of games for the Raiders. I guess that knee injury was worse than we thought coming back from that. But I think the first year after an ACL injury, I mean, look at what happened with Saquon. Like, he wasn't the same explosive back in 21 as he was before that ACL injury. So I would think maybe it was a bit premature on Blake's part, but he kind of he felt like that was enough. So can you imagine if we kept him and he missed a bunch of games and then he played in games and was not the same kind of type of player, and then he retires? Like, that just, what does that do in terms of the flow of the team, the game, and the system, So it looks like that was the right move over through and through. Golladay returns from being out. And I'm not very jealous. I don't respect. What is the feeling I'm trying to convey? It's not admirable. It's just like, oh, well, I could never do that, but kudos to you for doing that. The fans that were hyping the shit out of Kenny Galladay's return, like he's the difference. He's going to come back a different receiver. This is our wide receiver number 1. He's our guy. He's going to come back and he's going to get 12 targets a game. He's going to score a touchdown, his first touchdown. He's a difference maker. He's the wide receiver 1 that everyone wanted at the trade deadline or that, whatever. He got 2 targets, 1 drop, no catches. As if he's going to be this totally different guy. And it's like, no, I think that hip injury, it almost is reminds me of the Bo Jackson hip injury, where it's like he couldn't play football anymore. That was it. He just made the switch to baseball after that. Was a playoff game against the Bengals in 92, I want to say, 93. After that tackle, after the hip thing, wasn't the same in football. And he went on to continue to play baseball because he could. Not as much contact, but I think you're seeing the same thing with Kenny Golladay. I don't know that he's ever going to be that guy again. I don't think he's ever going to be a 100-catch guy, a 1,000-yard guy, double-digit touchdowns guy. He's just not going to be that. Now, I'm still holding out hope. Like, I was not of the mind, like the fans that were like, we get this guy back this week. And it's like, I was not excited to get him back. I didn't really see how it was going to be this miraculous turnaround 180 where all of a sudden he's getting 12 targets a game and catching 6 or 8 balls and for 80 yards and a touchdown. Like, I didn't see that. I don't think this coaching staff really likes him at all. And I've mostly agreed with a lot of their moves. It's hard not to when you win this much, but they are burying him. I mean, they benched him. Like, can you think of another wide receiver 1 in the league that drops a pass, gets 2 targets, 1 was a little out of his reach, 1 he straight up dropped and gets benched? You can't. It doesn't happen often or ever. So I think they are. This is my conspiracy brain. It feels like they are just going to torture him out the wazoo because they can't do anything. They've tried to trade him. No one wants to take him. They can't cut him because it's a lot of dead cap. So it's almost like they're trying to get him, what is it called? Not quiet quitting. Forcing a resignation. There's another term for it that I just come across, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened to me at SNY. They were just like, we're just going to make your life a living hell until you quit. And I was like, well, again, guess what? I ain't quitting. It feels like that's what they're doing with Kenny Golladay. It was like, we're just going to make you as miserable as possible. And maybe you come to us and say, hey, I want out any way possible. I don't care. Don't pay me. I just need to be away from this team, this clubhouse. Like, it feels like that's the way things are headed. Now, that's not what I hope. What I hope for is that it feels like, this would be such a crazy story, such a great story. The guy has sucked all year. He sucked last year. And a lot of that wasn't his fault last year. And he sucked this year. And a lot of that's due to injuries and whatnot, whatever. But wouldn't it be so amazing if it's even just one catch, but it's a clutch catch in a big game where we need a win, and he converts on a 3rd and 15, or he scores a touchdown to give us the lead? Like, it just feels like that's what we're going towards. We're not going to a 12 targets, 10 catches, 6 catches, 5. We're not going towards that. That's not happening this year. But it does feel like he's going to get like a big important touchdown in a big important game that's going to help us either make the playoffs or something down the stretch where it's like we get the lead in the division, and maybe we don't get the 5 or 6 seed. We get the 1 seed or the 2 seed or something like that. So just something is gonna, I just feel it in my bones that he's gonna like, and it's not gonna be consistent production. It's just gonna be, we like this matchup. We're going to match him up, and he's going to succeed in that one matchup, in that one pass, and it's that one catch. And it's going to be like, that's how he's going to be remembered by Giants fans. Because at this point, it's like, how do you look at what he's done and what the coaching staff is saying and his attitude and behavior and all that? How do you think that he has any kind of future with the team? He just doesn't. But I do feel like he does have that. He hasn't had that one moment that we've pointed to and said, that's his moment, his Giants moment. And I think that's still coming this year because this season feels magical. There's a lot of cool stuff happening. So it does feel like, wouldn't that be great when he has been down and out the whole year, dropping passes, not being targeted, benched, hurt, for him to come out and not have a big game, just have a big catch. And it's like, and I guarantee you when that happens, the crowd is gonna go nar, dude. Like bananas, crazy, ape, ham. We're gonna go bonkers. Cause it's gonna be, it's like all that pent up frustration and hurt and pain and sorrow and whatever is just released in that moment, because not only was it great for him, a good catharsis or whatever, but it was good for the team, good for the club, and it helped them for once. So that's my vision for Kenny Golladay. Is like, bud, I'd love to tell you that things are going to turn around and we're going to feed you the ball and you're going to be happy here, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But I do feel like you do have one cool, great moment that's going to like either keep the good times rolling, or you're going to put us over the edge and have us get over that hump, that mysterious hump that we're facing, where it's like no one believes in us. 7 of 14 on third downs. That's it's still weird to me to see that kind of performance out of our team, because we've been so bad on third downs for so long. To see us convert 14 third downs and we converted 7, that's just like, that feels like I'm in a dream state at this point. Again, we own time of possession, 33 minutes to 26. We were outgained through the air. And a lot of that's like, I don't know who you pin that on really, but a lot of that's like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to give up 300 plus yards to Davis Mills, especially when Brandon Cooks is like wants out and they revoked his captaincy. And you figure, like, who else do they have on this team that they can throw to? They have Chris Moore, and then they had Nico Collins, and they had Jordan Akins. And it's like, who are these guys? Like, didn't Jordan Akins try out for us? Like, got cut or something? Like, who is this team? I was concerned about Dameon Pierce the most. And, we kept him in check for the most part. He did have that long ass run for 40 some odd yards, but I think for the most part, we kept him bottled up and contained. Davis Mills had an 85.3 QB rating, but was sacked 4 times. So it's good to see us getting some pressure. Danny Dimes, 13 of 17, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks, a Perfect 153.3 rating. And people are like, man, he only threw 17 times. Dude, put any quarterback in that situation where they're only throwing 17 times. I doubt they come out with a 153.3 rating. I'm saying. Looking at some of the other stats here, Nico Collins, 10 targets, 5 catches, 49 yards, and a touch. And there was some talk about him being like a wide receiver 1 someday. Like, oh, okay. And remember how we were like pining for OJ Howard? I think there was a large part of the fan base that was pining for OJ Howard and was like, that dude is nothing in the NFL. Barkley with the big day. Darius Slayton, 3 catches, 95 yards, and a touch. I mean, what a turnaround, I guess. What a redemption story. It's another great story in a season full of great stories. Darius Slayton went from trying trade bait, like we wanted to trade him, to potentially getting cut, to taking a pay cut, to not playing at all. Well, healthy scratch, to he's our legitimate number 1 wide receiver right now, and a difference maker, a playmaker. You know, I just saw a clip on Twitter from Big Lou VCR. You know, he's doing Lions week, so he's showing clips from past Giants Lions games, and there were a couple where it's Sims to Baker, Stephen Baker, for like big gains or touchdowns, and there was like something about watching Baker, you know, catch the ball and rack up yak that reminded me of Darius Slayton. So if Darius Slayton is that kind of fits that mold, I'm gonna go with it. Now, is Stephen Baker like a number 1 wide receiver? I mean, those Giants teams didn't really have a number 1 wide receiver. So I mean, you know, we make a lot of comparisons between Dable's team and Parcells' team. That's one of them. I think we're just okay with not having a number 1 wide receiver. It's fine. We just have like a 2 or 3 wide receivers that all contribute and make plays when they need to. Isiah Hodgins, the new signee off the Bills practice squad, which apparently Bills fans were butthurt about because Hodgins is a pretty good wideout who just couldn't crack the lineup because of the depth there in Buffalo. But at the same time, it's like, isn't Buffalo in the running for Odell Beckham Jr.? Isn't Buffalo usually mentioned as a landing place for top wide receivers? So it's interesting to me that they would bail on Hodgins, and he made a big impact in this game. 2 catches, 41 yards, both for big first downs, or at least 1 for big first down. He had that short kind of underneath concept that got the first down in traffic, tough catch, great throw. And then another one down the seam-ish, which it's just good to see a big body target that gets open and catches the ball. Kenny Golladay, looking at you. Lawrence Cager with a touchdown catch. Oh, my God. Still a little underwhelmed by Wan'Dale Robinson. Still underwhelmed there. I don't know. I think they try to design plays for him, and they don't usually click like we hope, but it's just like, how do we get him in the mix more, dude? What is it? Is it just defenses taking advantage of him? Are they manhandling him because of his size? Like, what is it? What is it? How do we get him the ball more? Because it feels like he should be the type of player that you get him the ball and he's able to make guys miss. But so far we have not. There's only been like 1 game where we saw like a skosh of his potential. On the defensive side of the ball, Leonard Williams had himself a day. Dexter Lawrence had himself a day. Jason Pinnock had a day. Dan Belton, Dory Jackson, definite Pro Bowler, has to be in consideration for All Pro. Jalen Smith is one of the funniest guys I've ever watched. He just, his energy and his hair, just like him bouncing around, hopping around, his hair going everywhere. He's just like the Energizer Bunny, dude. He's like Daffy Duck. He's just bouncing around everywhere, and I don't know if his teammates like it or not. I hope they do, because it's just, you know, he just seems like he's in it to win it, and he just loves playing the game, and he loves pumping up his teammates, which I love. So, you know, I'm all for it. It's just funny, like him, he just jumping around, and because no one else is doing it. He's just like the only one you see bouncing around, jumping around, and just loving life. Fabian Moreau, another decent game. Kayvon Thibodeau, you know, 4 combined tackles, not too bad. And Micah McFadden looks like he's getting more of the workload. We'll get to that in a second. But Slayton and Barkley played 80% of the snaps. Wan'Dale, 75% of the snaps. Cager outsnapped Myrick and Hudson. which was interesting. Hodgins, 62% of the snaps, which is pretty incredible. And of course, Golladay, 38% of snaps. He just didn't play in the second half. But on the defensive side of the ball, Micah McFadden, 56% of the snaps. Tate Crowder, two snaps total. So that kind of tells you, and maybe this is a game-by-game situation where it's like, we feel like McFadden is the best matchup for this particular opponent, but it looks like it's been trending that way, going towards McFadden for a couple weeks now, dating back to Seattle. So before the bye week. So I mean, I think Tate Crowder was a great story, Mr. Irrelevant, and made some big plays over his career, but it looks like he's getting phased out of the game plan for whatever reason. Maybe it's pass coverage, maybe it's run support. I have a feeling it's more about run support, because there have been some clips of McFadden coming in and plugging up the hole and taking on the fullback and forcing the running back to explore alternative routes. If you look at the drives, Giants drives, we had that great opening drive, 10 plays, 68 yards for a touchdown, and then it was punt, 4 straight punts. Of course, the big series that everyone's talking about was a couple big series, but there was a 7-play drive that went 30 yards, took up 3 minutes, 33 seconds. And there was an 8-play drive that went 35 yards and took up 5 minutes. One of those drives, I forget which, ended when it was 4th and 1, and Jack Anderson has the false start, pushes them back. And then Jamie Gillen, who had a pretty awful game from what I saw after I got home and watched the first half, because I watched the second half and I'm like, I go on Twitter and I'm like, what the hell is everyone complaining about? And then I came home and ended up watching the first half that I recorded. I was like, oh, I mean, we did have a ton of opportunities and we just wasted them. And then our punter didn't help things. So, but open up the second half, and this is what we do. We're not a great first half team. We're a good second half team. 5-play, 75-yard drive, touchdown. That's the Darius Slayton-Long touchdown, which the throw by Daniel Jones, falling backwards, 2 guys in his face, is able to get the ball to Slayton underneath. Slayton's able to make a guy miss, which is great, and then just outrun everyone. And then a great block by Tanner Hudson down the field. So Tanner Hudson, you live to see another week. And the very next drive, 12 plays, 74 yards and a touchdown. And that was capped off with the Saquon Barkley run. So I love those kind of drives. More getting into double digits and taking a lot of time off the clock. That's just classic Brian Dable 2022 Giants football. 3 and out, and then we ended up with that pretty important field goal in the fourth quarter. We didn't move the ball at all. We didn't really move the ball at all, and I think that's the drive where Saquon has an opening around the right side, and he's running, and he's so concerned about not going out of bounds, because he did that multiple times against Jacksonville, that he doesn't go for the first down. It's like the first down's right there. If you get the first down, the game's over. Like, put your head down, put your shoulders down, get low, and get us that first down, dude. Instead, he goes down early in bounds and, is able to run off some clock. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you could have ended the game right there. If Graham Gano misses that field goal, I think Houston has a chance to tie it. So, but Gano friggin' crushes it from 49 or something like that. Not an easy chip shot. And we go up and pretty much ice the game. So Texans started with 3 and outs. Love to see that. Ended up getting a field goal in the first half, and then that long drive for a touchdown, and then followed that with a long drive that ended in the Dameon Pierce fumble. Great job, Leo Williams, big cat, and Jalen Smith recovering it and basically humping an offensive lineman in the process. And then you had the Dane Belton interception, which was also crucial. And then they got those 2 field goals late. I mean, huge stand, right? They're on the 8, and we were able to force them to kick the field goal there, which I think was a huge stand. And then they got that kind of whatever field goal towards the end. So, I mean, defense, I guess they could have played a little bit better. They only gave up 16 points, and maybe, it could have been more. Could have been closer, more than 20, but they didn't. They forced turnovers, they got pressure, and they locked down when they needed to. So I'm fine with the win. You're almost I'm getting used to the way they win. I think over the first 5-6 games, it was just like I'm on edge because I'm like, this is too close. I don't know what's gonna happen. Now I've been trained it's like just like a Pavlovian response. It's like watching that second half, anytime Houston would come and score, I was like, all right, well, now our offense is going to go out there and put out a long drive, sustained drive, and respond. And then our defense, there wasn't a ton of worry or concern from me in that game. So another win, 7-2. Eagles lost. Hell yeah. I mean, you win the games you should, right? You beat the beatable teams. The Eagles didn't. The Eagles are undefeated. Commanders team, they're playing at home, prime time. Taylor Heineke, backup quarterback, even though he probably should be the starting quarterback given his success. It's not great, but it's better than most other quarterbacks they run out there. That was a game that the Eagles, a division game that they needed to take care of business, and they didn't. So, we can get criticized up and down, left and right of like, oh, well, we're beating bad teams. Well, the Eagles didn't. I mean, and maybe the Commanders aren't as bad as we thought. I think they're going to be a thorn in everyone's side, Cowboys included, us included, down the stretch. And I wouldn't be entirely shocked if we split the series with the Commanders. I mean, I think their defense is looking pretty stout, and Heineke is such a freaking wild card. You don't know what he's going to pull out of his ass. So, but 7-2, Eagles are now 8-1. We have a 31% chance, according to playoff status, of getting that 5 seed. Season end today, we go to Tampa and play the Bucks, which prior to the Germany game, I didn't get to watch the Germany game, Bucks versus Seahawks. But my thought is, if the Bucks play that game in Seattle, I don't think they win. Similar to like if the Giants played the Packers in Green Bay, I don't think they would have won. But they played in London, so they had kind of a neutral type feel to it. Both teams were at a disadvantage, and so the Giants took advantage of that, and I think the Bucks did the same with Seahawks. Yeah, man, the Seahawks had to do some traveling, dude. From Seattle to Germany versus Tampa to Germany. I mean, it's not that great a difference, but I think it's just enough to throw them off. So now, would I rather go to Tampa and play the Bucks, or would I rather go to Seattle and play the Seahawks in the playoffs? And I know I'm thinking way too far ahead right now, and I'm probably jinxing the hell of us, knock on wood. But I kind of think I would rather face the Buccaneers in Tampa. I think they don't have a great running game. The passing attack is not what it used to be. Mike Evans is on my fantasy team, and I every week I'm so disappointed by his output. Just like, dude, oh my God. I can't cut you, can I? Huh? You're a keeper? All right. So at this point, it looks like we might have the edge on the 5 seed versus the Cowboys. The Cowboys lost. What a weekend, you guys. Cowboys lost. Commanders won. Eagles lost. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. Cowboys losing to the Packers in Green Bay in overtime. Love seeing McCarthy lose his crap and throw the headphones on the turf. I just love to see it. Love to see it. So have we cracked the code on the Cowboys, and has Green Bay exposed them? That's an ongoing question, storyline. But they're not invincible. They're not unbeatable. As good as they might look against the Bears or other teams, they didn't look as good against the Packers. I mean, Dak Prescott. People keep trashing Daniel Jones because of the turnovers thing. You can't use that as a reason that he shouldn't be the quarterback anymore. He's just not turning the ball over. There was a graphic that they put up during the game where it's like each year, going year by year and looking at the turnovers, interceptions and fumbles. No quarterback in the league right now has less turnovers than Daniel Jones. And then you watch the Bills Vikings, and you watch someone like Josh Allen, who everyone loves, myself included, have back-breaking, crucial turnover after turnover. I'm talking interceptions in the red zone, fumble on your own 1-yard line. Like, those cost the Bills the game. Daniel Jones is not costing us any games so far. Again, knock on wood. Dak Prescott throwing in enemy territory, in Packers territory, throwing a crucial interception towards the end zone. It's just like Daniel Jones did that week 1. I called for his head. He has not done it since. So got that going for us. You look at the remaining games. So like if we lose out, all right, we go 7-10, we're missing the playoffs. If we win 1 of the next 8, we go 8-9. We might have a shot at the 7th seed. We win 2 of 8, go 9-8. We have a 42% chance of getting that final playoff spot. We win 3 of 8 and go 10-7, which was my preseason prediction before anything got started. When the schedule came out, I said 10-7. We have a 60% chance of getting that 6th seed. So for me, anything less than 10-7 would be a huge disappointment, I think. That and It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not like that would be considered. I don't think anyone would consider that a monumental collapse, considering that no one thought they would be in 7-2 right now. So for them to lose, go 2-6 down the stretch or whatever, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, well, it's a rebuild year and they don't have X and Y and Z and da da da. But I think the minimum, the floor is 10-7 at this point, which could get us that 6th seed. And then, we have our only shot of really winning the division if the, things stay as they are. I think playoff status gives us a 38% chance of winning the division and getting that 1 seed if we win 7 of our next 8 games. That's just how crazy. I mean, they put up a graphic during the Monday night game. Like the NFC East has the highest winning percentage of any division in NFL history at this point. I want to say like 7-something winning percentage. So, and that's what we're dealing with. And that's why the Giants have the toughest remaining schedule, because they have 5 more division games left, 2 against the Commanders, 2 against the Eagles, and 1 against the Cowboys. We have the toughest schedule in the league. Yikes. So this is the proving grounds, right? This is where we actually prove to the world that we are a good team and that we're a playoff contender and we can make a run, or we prove the haters right and they say, well, see, you're playing an easy schedule in the first half and, you caught some teams off guard, but you don't have what it takes to be, considered a threat. So should be a wild second half. Wild. So power rankings and predictions. Let's take a look at the ESPN Football Power Index. It's my first time looking at it. I didn't even know this friggin' thing existed. I don't really pay much mind to ESPN these days, unless it's like Monday Night Football. The Giants, so the Football Power Index measures a team's true strength on net point scale, expected point margin versus average opponent on neutral field. The Giants are, I decided to take a screenshot that only has the top 16 teams, right? Because I figure that's above average, right? FBI. Giants, nowhere to be found. That's the Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Ravens, Cowboys, Bengals, Niners, Dolphins, Bucks, Vikings, Jets, Jags, Browns, Raiders, Patriots, Cardinals. That's your 1 through 16 for the FPI. And those last 3 teams, I mean, the Raiders, dude, and the Cardinals and the Jags. Something's off with this FBI. I got to say that. When you have the Jags, the Raiders, and the Cardinals above the Giants. Woof. I mean, the Raiders did have a bunch of close games. I think they had a handful of games that were lost by 1 score or less. The Jaguars have played most of their opponents fairly toughly and have had a bunch of really tough opponents. Eagles, Buccaneers is a little surprising that they're that high. We beat the goddamn Ravens. Does that mean anything? I guess not. So that's kind of a bummer. In terms of projections from ESPN, it looks like they have the Chiefs, Vikings, and Eagles at 99.9% chance to make the playoffs. Cowboys at 97.9%. Giants at 82%. Woof. They have us going, about 10-7. So I'm okay with 10-7. 10-7 to me should be a playoff seed. According to this, if you go by these projections, Vikings, it would be Eagles 1, Vikings 2. I guess Cowboys would be the 5. Then you would have Niners 3, Bucks 4, Giants 6, Seahawks 7. In which case we would go to San Francisco and face the Niners. That would be an interesting matchup. I wouldn't mind to see that little freaking revenge, because we stink in the playoffs against San Francisco, in San Francisco, taking away the NFC Championship game in 90. We've just have been brutalized there. If we look at 538's predictions and whatnot, they have the Vikings and Chiefs, Eagles, all at 99% or more to make the playoffs. They have the Chiefs as the favorite to win the Super Bowl. The Giants have a 76% chance, even worse chance of making the playoffs, and only a 2% chance of winning the Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, we're behind the Eagles and Cowboys. They have the Eagles and Cowboys way up top. I don't know, dude. I we beat the Ravens and the Titans, and it's like, it doesn't matter, I guess. That doesn't matter because it's the AFC, I guess. Whatever. All right, so let's take a look at the Lions' upcoming Lions game, the preview. Last 5 matchups, we lost in 2019. That was a bad loss. That was a tough loss because it looked like that's when for me, it looked like the Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton connection was on point. I think they had 2 touchdowns that game to each other. So that was a hard loss to stomach. I do not remember the 2017 loss. That was in September 2017. We lost 24-10. I just do not remember that. I tend not to remember anything about the 2017 season, which is probably a good thing. 2016, we did win on our home turf, 17-6. That was in December. That was a pretty huge win. I think Odell had a touchdown in that game. 2014, we got smoked. I do remember that game and being severely disappointed because it's a September game. Anytime you get blown up in a September game, it's like, this season's going to be a long one, isn't it? And then in December of 2013, we won 23-20. Would you believe me if I said the Lions lead the all-time series 24-21-1? I would not have thought that. Definitely surprised. Goff having a pretty decent year, over almost 2,300 yards passing with 15 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown almost has 50 catches, 518 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Jamal Williams has the leading rusher with 600 plus yards and 9 touchdowns. Our leading receiver is still not Darius Slayton. If you're going by receptions, Darius Slayton is still not our leading receiver. It's Richie James still with 20. But I think Slayton has more yards. He has more yards and 2 touchdowns, which is, I think it's just the start of something great. I think Slayton's going to go on a pretty good, consistent run. Although he has a tendency, he can just disappear in some games, which really is unfortunate. The Lions are 1-3 on the road and 5-4 against the spread. And I think right now the spread, or it was yesterday, the Giants are favored by 3.5 or something like that. We do not score a lot of points. We don't give up a lot of points. We're 9th in scoring defense, allowing less than 20 points a game. Meanwhile, Lions are dead last, 32nd in the league in points allowed per game, but they are 9th in points scored per game. So, and I think I've seen this from a lot of the talking heads, is that we don't want to play that kind of game where there are a lot of points being scored, because that is dangerous territory, because I don't know that we can score a lot of points. Whereas Detroit has proven that they can compete in shootouts. So I think we want to avoid the shootout if possible. We're +4 in the takeaway differential, which places us 6th in the league. We're also 3rd in the league in rushing yards gained in a game on offense. And surprisingly, the Lions are 11th. They're 9th in passing yards per game. We're 29th in passing yards per game. We just don't throw the ball for a lot of yards. Again, efficiency, quality, not quantity. And then our defense does give up a lot of yards. You know, we're 17th and 24th in terms of yards per game on passing and rushing. But I mean, the Lions defense is pretty brutal. 27th in passing yards allowed per game, 31st in rushing yards per game. So if there were ever an opportunity for the offense to come alive and put up some points, this is the game. You know, they shut down the run, we can pass. They shut down the pass, we can run. It seems like we're going to be able to move the ball. So it's a trap game. This is another trap game. I mean, 3 of the past 4 games have been trap games: Jags, Texans, and now the Lions. And this will be a huge test, because I think a lot of people are looking past the Lions and looking towards that Cowboys game on Thanksgiving Day. And I have a pretty strong feeling that Brian Daboll is not going to allow that to happen. And I wouldn't be shocked if we come out and we look flat in the first half and maybe we get down in the first half, but that's just what we do, baby. We come out slow, but we finish strong. So I would expect pretty much the same in this game, where it's like, you know, maybe we are down by 3 or even 7 at the end of that first half, and you know, you got a couple of boos trickling in as the team runs off into the locker room. But I fully expect us to take advantage of halftime, make some adjustments, come out and put together a couple of drives to start the second half and score. And then I really think that Martindale is going to give Goff everything that he's going to give him a run for his money. He's going to keep Goff on his toes. I don't think I haven't seen a ton of games for the Lions this year, but I would think that he's not the same old Jared Goff, that he's making better throws. I mean, you know, they're without TJ Hawkinson, who they traded away. So I think that's great for us. That could have been a real thorn in our side, because we historically don't do well against tight ends. So it's good that we don't have to deal with him. And so, you know, Dan Campbell's got them fighting. I mean, I at the sports bar I was watching, I had an eye on the Bears Lions game, and Lions were down by 14, 17 points, something like that at one point. And then they stormed back, getting crucial turnovers. And so they could very easily be 4-5. They're 3-6. They could be 4-5. Their SRS, which I forget what that means from Pro Football Reference, but they're 20th of 32. So this is, even though their defense is horrid, I think that they still are competitive. And so I feel like it's going to be like it has been in these trap games where we keep the other team in the game and we're not really necessarily putting them away. It would be nice for this to be the game where we put them away and win by double digits. That would be nice. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. I think, the line says it all. I think it's going to come down. I think we'll pull out the win, but it'll come down to that last drive. It'll come down to the fourth quarter. But I think this team has the mindset, the mentality to persevere, that grittiness. I think when you have a fully healthy Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams caving the pocket in the middle, when you have Adoree Jackson and even Fabian Moreau and that secondary stepping up in Xavier McKinney's absence and making big plays and making it tough on the quarterback. I think that, we're riding this defense. We're ride or die with this defense. This defense is either going to win us games or lose us games. It's up to the defense, really. And the offense is just like, let's just take advantage of our opportunities. I think it's going to be another big game for Barkley. There is some talk, though, that they're not going to feed Barkley as much. So even though Detroit has a putrid rush defense, that there's a sentiment that maybe we should not overwork Barkley because it will be a short turnaround with Thanksgiving, that Thursday game against Dallas. So maybe we shouldn't, he shouldn't tote the rock 30 plus times a game. Let's get that down to like 20 and then let's lean more on Matt Breida, which, is great in theory, but then it's like someone else has to step up. I don't know that Breida, I haven't been, I don't think I've been really blown away by Breida so far. I did like the signing. I don't hate the signing thus far in the season. I'd like to see a little bit more, to be honest. I'd like to see them try and cater to his style of play a little bit more and design some plays for him more often, get him more involved. I like when him and Barkley are on the field at the same time. I like that setup. Get him more involved in the passing game because he is a pass catching back. So I think maybe he could be an X factor in this game. Would love to see Slayton make big plays like he always does. Wandale, I think this is a great opportunity for him to make his presence felt because I feel like he's been somewhat MIA. And, maybe Lawrence Cager is the guy at tight end. That's so weird to say. We miss Bellinger. That's fairly clear. Bellinger was out. He's got that eye injury. I don't know when he's expected to return, but he's been sorely missed, which is interesting to say because like numbers don't jump out at you, but it's just that consistency of like he's going to get you a couple grabs, important first down, some key blocks. Like it's the little things with Daniel Bellinger that we have missed to a certain degree. And this is the Kenny Golladay revenge game. So, if there were ever a time for Kenny Golladay to have one good game this season, I wouldn't hate it if it was this one. Get that much needed W and go 8-2 into Thanksgiving. That would be super duper. Thanks for coming. But it'll be interesting. Final score prediction. 24. Yeah, 24-20. I think 23-17, 21-17, I think in that range. If the final score is in the mid to high 20s, I don't know that we're winning. I think we want to avoid the shootout as much as possible, which is it's been tough. You look at the Lions schedule. Let's pull it up real quick. It looks like they're playing on Thanksgiving too. Duh, Neal, it's Detroit. Idiot. So they have a short week turnaround as well. Opening day, they gave the Eagles everything they had and almost pulled out a win. So they lose by 3 to the Eagles. That's something, They beat the Commanders, lose the Vikings by 4. I think they were actually up in that game and Minnesota came back. They lose to the Seahawks by 3. Again, that was a huge explosion of points, 48-45. They get shut out by the Patriots in New England. That feels like it was a little bit of a anomaly, but then they got smoked by the Cowboys in Dallas. Big time shootout against the Dolphins, 31-27 loss. Beat the Packers 15-9, beat the Bears 31-30. So they have to, despite their record 3-6, they should be 4-5. They have to be feeling pretty good about themselves heading into the Meadowlands. So they're riding high. They got a lot of momentum. Giants could catch the Giants looking ahead to Dallas, but to me, it's like I just don't see this team doing that. I don't see them looking ahead. I don't think this coaching staff is going to allow that to happen. There's no mention of the D word or the C word. It's all the L word this week. You can't be talking about or thinking about Dallas, the Cowboys at all this week. They don't exist. The only team that exists is the Detroit Lions. So we'll see. I think the Lions are gonna give them hell in that first half. But then I think the Giants are able to recalibrate, and pull out the win. So, but yeah, I feel good. A little worried. Hard not to be. Because every game has been so close, and there's been, there are plenty of opportunities in each game where it could have gone either way, depending on the ball, where the ball bounces. So, but damn, I really hope we stick it to them. This will be a game where it would be nice to just roll over this team. If we put on a show and really blow them out, that would do wonders, I think, for us, as a team, and to get some recognition around the league. But odds are probably not. All right. So that's the Giants.